Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Nibiru channel. It is November 14th, 2016. We wanted to bring you the third update on the New Zealand quakes. This is a discussion with a seismologist. This is a follow-up report to the earthquake and tsunami in New Zealand on Monday, November 14th, 2016. And we are also going to hear in this interview that is done by a New Zealand reporter. He's going to be speaking with a seismologist, and the information that he has on this devastating earthquake is very important. So let's listen to the report.
Scientists investigating last night's earthquake say it faltered in much the same way as Christchurch's devastating February 2011 quake. Joining me now is GNS seismologist John Ristow. John, before we get into the way it faltered, give us the latest on what actually happened with this quake.
Well, the latest thing that we can see is there actually were two earthquakes. There was one to the south, which was near Kaikoura, which was what we call a reverse faulting earthquake. So it's an earthquake where you get the ground goes like this. So one side was up relative to the other. And to the north, you had one that we call a strike-slip earthquake. So the two fault planes moving like that, side to side. We don't know what the relative sizes were of the two earthquakes. You know, if they were roughly the same size or if one was bigger than the other. We're still looking into that.
So, John, you can confirm there were two earthquakes in different places that happened pretty much simultaneously.
Yes, that's what we're here to see. That's what is most consistent with all the data that we have.
Now, when we say it was a 7.5 magnitude at 15 kilometres deep, which of the two earthquakes does that refer to?
Well, the 7.5, the magnitude, will refer to kind of the whole thing. But the actual location and the depth is going to refer to the first earthquake. So in this case, the one that was near Kaikoura.
Right. Now, the latest on the aftershocks, how many? And there have been some big ones, right?
Yes, we've had quite a few that have been 4.5 or larger. And we've had, so probably, what we got here, about roughly around 300 aftershocks or so that were located. And I think there have probably been at least 60 that have been 4.5 or larger, with 3, I believe, that have been magnitude 6 or larger.
So apparently, New Zealand suffered two earthquakes back to back, and now they are being rocked by the aftershocks, which are very, very strong and could actually be considered earthquakes. A magnitude 6 as an aftershock is just like reliving the initial earthquake. Let's listen to more of what they have to say.
In itself, a very, very severe earthquake. Now, this one was 7.5. If we go back to 2010, September the 4th, that's when Christchurch experienced the first earthquake, 7.1. Can you give us an idea of how much stronger a 7.5 is compared to a 7.1?
Well, if the easy rule of thumb is that for every 0.2 you go up in magnitude, you roughly about double the size of an earthquake. So a 7.3 is about twice the size of a 7.1, and a 7.5 about twice the size of a 7.3. So you'd have to go 2 times 2, so 4 times larger. A 7.5 is about 4 times larger.
So the earthquake or earthquakes that we saw happen last night at 2 minutes past midnight, these were 2, 3, 4 times as powerful as the strongest earthquake that hit Christchurch.
Yes, exactly. So the Darfield earthquake, the September 2010 earthquake, there the fault rupture was roughly about 30 kilometers long. So this one would be about 4 times that long.
Extraordinary. Right, now, can we move on to the movement of the Earth again? Obviously, this is all connected to that alpine fault and the subduction zones and whatnot. Explain to us how this earthquake happened, its similarities with the Christchurch ones.
Well, all earthquakes in New Zealand ultimately are related to the fact that New Zealand sits right on top of the plate boundary between the Pacific plate and the Australian plate. So the Australian plate's to the west, Pacific plate to the east. These plates are crashing into one another and also sliding past one another at the same time. And so these the Christchurch earthquakes, the Canterbury earthquakes, actually were located little distance away from that plate boundary, but this one is located much closer to the plate boundary. We're still investigating as to whether some of it might have actually occurred right on that plate boundary.
And this time it wasn't the two plates slipping up and down, was it? There was thrust upwards, is that correct?
Yeah, well, there was both. So the first earthquake, the one near Kaikoura, again, that was up and down, like this type of motion, and the one to the north, going up towards Seddon, was side to side motion. And
All right.
we've had our some people from our landslide team. They've already gone down and they've flown over the area, and they've actually seen the surface ruptures. And to the south, they've actually seen the surface rupture basically going pretty much straight up and down. Pure up and down motion, and to the north, pure side to side motion.
John, how big were some of those surface ruptures that your team observed?
I don't know I can't tell you off the top of my head how big they were. I haven't heard what the actual size of the surface ruptures were, but they'd have to be fairly big to be seen. Well, they'd be so in terms of length, they could be several kilometers long.
Yep.
And as far as the actual displacement, the amount of up and down or side to side motion, probably on the order of meters.
So apparently, the two devastating earthquakes in New Zealand were two totally different types of earthquakes, such as the seismologist is stating, a side-to-side earthquake and an up and down, pushing on the tectonic plates. Let's listen more to what he has to say.
Okay, now we can't predict earthquakes, but we can, through history, learn of the pattern of aftershocks. What do you expect to see from this point going forward?
Well, the most likely scenario that a typical aftershock sequence is that the largest aftershock is roughly about a magnitude unit smaller than the main shock, and I think we've already had an aftershock that was about 6.5.
6.5.
So we've had that one that's about a magnitude unit smaller, and then you usually get about 10 times that many that are another magnitude unit smaller, so around the 5.5 range, and so on. So I think at the moment everything's sort of playing out like a typical aftershock sequence. However, there is still a strong likelihood, or a strong possibility that there could be another earthquake roughly of similar size near this one. That's something that we can't rule out yet, and the probabilities for that are still, I think, fairly high.
So they are actually calling for, or predicting, or forecasting, whatever word salad you want to use on this. They're basically saying that New Zealand should definitely prepare and watch out, because there is an imminent threat of another magnitude 7 or greater earthquake. Let's listen more.
Roughly 20% or so in the next week, something like that.
All right, John Ristow, we'll let you get back to analysing the data coming in, and we will cross back to you if any of these large aftershocks do in fact hit. Thank you so much.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That gives you a detailed analysis from a seismologist of what actually happened in New Zealand. My thoughts are that within the next 24 to 48 hours, they may be under the gun again with a much stronger earthquake or something similar to what occurred on Monday, November 14th, 2016. I'd like to thank all of our Nibiru watchers. You guys do a fantastic job. We'd also like to thank you for your loyal subscribership. You can continue to email your photographs and your video to nibiru2016@gmail.com. And don't forget to share our videos with your friends and family members on Facebook. And subscribe to the Nibiru channel for all of our current updates. And like I always say, keep an eye in the sky. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Nibiru channel. It is November 14th, 2016. We wanted to bring you the third update on the New Zealand quakes. This is a discussion with a seismologist. This is a follow-up report to the earthquake and tsunami in New Zealand on Monday, November 14th, 2016. And we are also going to hear in this interview that is done by a New Zealand reporter. He's going to be speaking with a seismologist, and the information that he has on this devastating earthquake is very important. So let's listen to the report.
Scientists investigating last night's earthquake say it faltered in much the same way as Christchurch's devastating February 2011 quake. Joining me now is GNS seismologist John Ristow. John, before we get into the way it faltered, give us the latest on what actually happened with this quake.
Well, the latest thing that that we can see is there actually were two earthquakes. There was one to the south, which was near Kaikoura, which was what we call a reverse fault.